Akses is an online platform that provides clients with access to service providers all around the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Akses, that's AKSES, connects these businesses to job opportunities by highlighting not just the service or brand, but the people behind the brand. The founder of Akses, Chavez was born and raised in Upper Cayon. When he was 22 years old, he migrated to the United States of America. Chavez is the product design lead responsible for building transparency and control in the AI or artificial intelligence powered products at Meta, aka Facebook. Yes, you heard that right. Facebook, the largest social media networking platform in the world. Therefore, it is indeed our absolute pleasure to welcome one of our very own, who hails from Green Valley, Chavez Procope. Good morning, SKN's Connections. Welcome, Chavez. How are you doing today?
Welcome and good morning.
Thank you for having me. Glad to be here and talk to you guys about stuff.
Yeah, indeed. I'm telling you, this is an honor. Just reading your bio alone is so very impressive. So what provided you with the impetus to launch Akses?
So I launched Akses in summer 2020. I had plans with some colleagues to come home and give back in terms of teaching people about the stuff that I do. But the pandemic hit and that quickly went out the door. And then things went from bad to worse. And at some point, I sort of realized once traveling got shut down, a lot of people got impacted by that, but especially those working in the tourism industry who relied on people traveling to St. Kitts for their main source of income. And so I wanted to figure out how I could use my skills still, even though I couldn't get to come home to do what I wanted, to help those people that, need something. And so the question that I had to ask myself was, what do people do for money when their primary job isn't available anymore? And well, they hustle, they do whatever side jobs are available, or put their creativity to work, or their passion. But if you're not known for that skill or that thing, all of a sudden it would be hard for anyone to discover you outside of word of mouth. And everything is online these days. And so that would limit their potential clientele or their potential income, as little as it may be. And so Akses was born as a means to bring exposure to these new freelancers, and just in relationship existing freelancers. So that was the first reason. And then the second reason was because I don't live at home in St. Kitts, but majority of my family and friends still are in St. Kitts. And so whenever I might want to do something for one of them, let's say my mom, I have to ask a friend if they know anyone that's good at X. Like the personal example that I have is getting someone to do tile work for my mom. And I asked someone, they said, "Oh, this guy's great, he's good." I said, "Okay, cool, let's do it." I can't really find anybody online anyway. And when it was over, the job was not up to par at all. And so, this idea of like asking a friend for someone that does quality work may not always necessarily be your idea of what quality work is. And I'm a visual person, as I'm a designer. And so I figured, it would be so much better if I could just have a bunch of options at my fingertips, where I could see people's work and be able to compare and make a more informed decision on who I would want to hire to do something. And I figured that might also bode well for people at home locally who, even though the country is small, when you need someone, you still mostly rely on word of mouth, like your neighbor to tell you, "Hey, I know so and so and so and so." But doesn't always necessarily mean that that person is the best person for the job. So hoping that this would provide people with options.
What a great idea, indeed.
A very good one. I was trying to remember the site that there is in the US for stuff like that. So thank you for bringing that to St. Kitts and giving persons the opportunity to explore their skills and put themselves out there other than the word of mouth. So can you give us some insight into the categories of freelancers on Akses?
Yeah, for sure. So we have anywhere from landscapers to carpenters and electricians to lots of makeup artists. And we have like web developers, software developers, painters, bakers, accountants, architects. So all these different people that really put themselves out there to create a business that, my idea of what a freelancer is without you, the individual, this business wouldn't exist. It's not like a company that just provides a service, and that's why it's focused on individuals or really, really small people that provide a service, because they need the boost just as much as anybody else, especially right now.
Right. So if I go to the website, which is of course Akses Hub, that's the correct one, correct? All right.
Yeah.
So if I go to the website and I want to say that Tyler that you talked about before, or at least another one, preferably another one, I'm sure. Can I connect directly with that person through clicking on your website, or do I go through you? How does that work?
Yeah, so you connect directly to them. We don't put up any barriers to connection, because that's the whole point of it, is that we want to make this seamless and easy for you to reach that person. So when people sign up, they have the ability to say whether they are okay with people contacting them through WhatsApp or not. And then if they say yes, then we allow, like, as soon as you go to the website, at least on mobile, there's a WhatsApp option there for anybody that says yes to allowing WhatsApp. And so you tap that message, and when it opens WhatsApp for you, and it automatically already loads a message that says, "Hey, I'm interested in your services on Akses. Are you available for new work?" And you just have to press send. You give them a call or whatever you choose to do, and then we also link out to people's social media, so Instagram, Facebook. Again, going back to this idea of allowing people to get to see your actual work so that they could make a decision as to if you're the right person for the job.
Your platform also offers run ads for service providers' business once they register. How does this work, and is there a cost attached?
Yeah, so I actually run ads for every freelancer that signs up for free. They don't have to pay anything. And that's just part of what Akses offers for anyone that signs up. And I think, just putting someone on a website is definitely beneficial. Like, I can now search for certain services, and Akses is actually a result that you would find if I specify Synkits. And so now some of these people who didn't necessarily have a website or online presence, they could now be easily found when you make a Google search for somebody in Synkits. And sorry, I'm blanking on what you just asked.
Well, suffice it to say that Akses makes things accessible. I guess that's the whole point of it.
Yeah, that's the whole point, yes.
So what exactly are your roles as product design lead at Meta?
So I am the lead in responsible AI, specifically for transparency and control work streams within responsible AI. So my job is really to focus on helping communicate to external audiences like regulators and academics and so forth, how our AI systems perform, making sure that they're fair and so forth. So bringing down a barrier so people can actually understand how they do what they do and why they do what they do.
That's absolutely fascinating. I'm telling you, artificial intelligence, user interface, user experience. We're going to get to that in a second. But before we even get there, Chavez, what we really want to know is, coming from SyncKits, what was the pathway that led you to be where you are now? Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, so I always knew I wanted to be an architect growing up after doing technical design in Washi. And I eventually came to the US to study architecture in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I got to my senior year, I would have these people come in to review our work, and they would say to us, like, all this beautiful stuff that you're doing, you're not going to be able to do in the real world. And that just used to suck the life out of me every time. And I knew that my idea was I had to focus on doing something that I could use when I go back home to Synkits to make money, which was architecture. And then I realized, like, I don't want to graduate and then go to work doing the mediocre architect stuff, just doing the same old building designs that everyone else is doing. And so I was like, I knew I was going to wake up being miserable to do that. And I figured if I was going to put my life in debt to go to school, it might as well be for something that I could see myself waking up every day and doing. And so during my senior year, I dropped out of architecture, gave my mom a heart attack, and decided to look into web design and visual design and stuff like that, because all of that is encompassed in being an architect. So I always enjoyed that aspect of it. And then once I stumbled on web design, I kind of never looked back. And changed my major to that. Ended up getting the opportunity to stay in America, thankfully, because I didn't know what I was going to do with it when I got back home. Then after I graduated, started my career at an agency, and then eventually worked my way up to Facebook.
Great story, Chavez.
Yeah. In your opinion, was there a lack of opportunities here in the Federation for you as a UI, UX designer, and what can be done to support those who are interested in this field?
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of interest when it comes to these kind of fields. Like, I think when it comes to visual design, the most rewarding field to be in back home is probably along the lines of graphic design and video production, stuff like that. But for me, like, going back home and getting people to pay me well to do websites was just, especially then, was just not a thing that would be valuable to anyone at home. And most people at home that actually did value that stuff, they just outsourced that stuff and never really looked within the Federation to find people to do that, at least do it well. But I think, the internet is just available to everybody now. And from not just product design, but also web development, which is the other half of like building software, period. I find that a lot of people go to study web design or web development, and they come home and they sort of just work in a different field and wish there was opportunities for people to hire them for that stuff, but that eventually falls to the wayside because there's just no opportunities for that. But I think those people that do go away to study web development and have to come home, they should sort of focus on international opportunities and forget about the fact that they live in St. Kitts, so they need to focus on St. Kitts, because in this day and age, whether it's Fiverr or Upwork or freelancer.com, you could sign up on any one of these international platforms and find opportunities to do what you love for companies elsewhere. And companies elsewhere are looking for people internationally. And so I think people should think about focusing on doing things like that and not necessarily just focusing on where you live. And in terms of specifically product design and getting people into it, I think it's still fairly new to the Federation, at least. I tried searching for a few people that do it back home, and I found maybe one or two. But that's why my hope is to eventually come home and help teach people about product design. Because everybody, it's not even just the youngsters, but the parents as well. Because, growing up, the parents are always like, oh, become a doctor, become a lawyer and stuff like that. But there are a lot of other creative fields out there that do just as well as those other fields. And so my hope is to help introduce that in some way or fashion in the near future.